Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by this supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello, everybody. I hope we are not muted. Let me get this off. Where did it go? Where'd it go? There it is. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. I see everybody in here. It's so good to see you tonight. Gosh, it seems like such a long... this week has felt like a month and just, a day as well. I've never been in such a timeline where everything felt like everything was sped up and everything just slowed down at the same time. And then sped right up again. And it's funny when you look at a video and you're trying to keep up with the news, which is just one of my things I do constantly. And the fact, let's just put it this way, the real facts, not the crazy news. But anyway, I looked at it used to be like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would go, oh my gosh, they're bringing this up. This is so like last week. This is so like last month. Why are they talking about this? That was handled last month. And now it's got up to the point where, that was so last week. And then I got to the point where that was so 2 hours ago. I swear I got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I already know about that. That was 2 hours ago. What's happening now? I need to know now. But anyway, it's funny. I don't know if any of you are on that ride with me, but if you are, I've been riding on that train for quite a while. And I just decided I was going to ride in the bar car because it's just, at first you're up, you're up front in the engine and you're cheering things on and you're just riding it like an old bull coming out of the gate. And then now I'm in the bar car going, yeah, that's right, man. Glad you saw it. It's like, sit down, have a beer. So it's much nicer. And that's kind of what this podcast is going to be like tonight. Real comfy. And I hope you enjoy it. This isn't a big deep dive. Like I said, I could do a couple of those a month. I'm finishing Eric Unseen Paranormal Podcast book and doing some other projects. And on top of that, as you well know, if you've been with me for a while, we are coming on Valentine's week and I'm a floral designer. So my hours get a little crazy. And yes, it gets that bad. And you stand there and you do a dozen roses after another all day long. It's insanity. And it's kind of been a part of my life for a very long time. I miss it because, when I'm not doing it, because I watched my mom do it as a young girl, as the youngest of her Brady Bunch mixture kids. I was the baby and I got to go with her sometimes to work and, watching her on Valentine's Day. And it was just amazing. And of course, when you're a little kid, all the stems seem like they're up to here on you, and because there's such piles and piles of stems, you wouldn't believe how much, how many roses, how many flowers you go through, let alone it's not just roses, it's all kind. And in a way, I'm really glad because it would always come at a time, being in construction and stuff too. Most of the time throughout my life, back and forth, you would have like a bad winter because, you construction outdoor work, you might have a tight winter. And then here comes Valentine's Day and you're putting in all this mega overtime. And, I worked for crazy people that wanted you to put in 22 hours, sleep 2 hours, get back on and do another 22 hours. I'm like, are we saving children's lives here? Are we curing cancer? I've never seen so much greed in all my life, And I'm here to tell you, if you're a boss of mine, you say, look, if you don't come in, you're fired. You just fire me now. I'll have a job tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's just, I just don't understand the you get caught up, and then you find out you worked all this overtime. Oh, making money, making money. And I would usually wait about the second day into all these newbie people, and I'm like, yeah, but it puts you in a different tax bracket, and they cut more taxes out of it, so you're really not making that much to put up with all the nonsense and everything, and your hands are so, it's a pleasure in a lot of ways, but it's brutal. But you really, really like to see how many people are still out there, participating in the dating and the recognizing of the significant others, and you hope they're doing it out of they want to, and not so much I better, kind of thing. But I really do think there's a lot more love out there and a lot more happiness than people want you to believe. So we're just going to go with that tonight. So, and if it's measured by the amount of roses and flowers that are sold in a small shop in the Jersey Shore, this isn't a big corporate place. This is a small, privately owned mom and pop brick and mortar without a lot of the bells and whistles, and it's very, very reassuring to see them doing well. And I hope if you're involved in one of those or have one of those your own, or considering purchasing anything of any kind, try to do it with some of these privately owned companies if you can. Wherever you may be, whatever country you are in, please support your locals, because I think those are coming back. Let's help them out. So welcome to the first days of February of 2025. January was a hoot. I hope you're enjoying yourself out there, because it's been something, guys. How is everybody tonight? Hey, Hanging, good to see you, hon. Good to see you. Hanging is wonderful, always throwing in jokes and keeping us laughing and smiling up in here. Welcome. And Ted, my just wonderful friend, thank you so much for being here. And Lord Connor, I just love you so much. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for always putting in the comments, under the videos. It helps in YouTube. It definitely helps in Rumble. If you're not over there on our Rumble tonight, please get over there, follow the links, and follow Ted. Ted will show you the way. Get over there, because you're missing some good movies. You're missing some good midweek tribe time, because you can get in there, you can get in the chat, you can just watch the movie, you don't have to hang with us. The movie's there, it's free, it's commercial free. I don't make a dime on it, wouldn't want to, that's not my work. But what's very cool is I get to show it, and everybody gets to gather there and comment about it and guess the things that are happening, whether it's a mystery or whether we're trying to sort out a haunting or something else. And it's really neat. It's like sitting in a living room with a bunch of your friends, that are like-minded or that you can debate with, maybe over a subject. And I think that's how we learn. And I think they didn't want us to do that. They didn't want us to meet at the bars. They didn't want us to hang out. They didn't want us to go over each other's houses and sit down and have conversations, around the table and stuff like that. So it's really cool to be able to get in a chat like this and have that. And the odd thing about it is everybody's all around the world, and we can all be in the same spot by the miracle of the inner tube. So thank you for being here. And Ted, again, thank you so much for your kind support, everything you do, for helping in the background and getting us cool things to watch. And I thank you and Gerald for that. Welcome in. Hey, Renese, how you doing? Mud, it's good to see you. Hadn't seen you in a while. Good to have you here. Who else do we have in here tonight? I saw Uncommon Belief. I saw Froze Moments. Welcome in. I am sending out love to the Stocktons. I saw Steve over on Lee's channel. I think it was last night. He looks like he is on the mend. It's a really rough cold, so if you get in front of it, again, anytime you can step aside and get away from the train, great. If you got to run in front of it, you got to keep going. It's rough. Henry, welcome in. Here I am. This is me. Here I am, and all my insanity and all that good stuff. So, okay. RP, how you doing, hun? If I missed anybody, it was not intentional, I assure you. Kat, how you doing, hun? And again, thank you for all you do, Ghost Lore. I appreciate you. And again, commenting and sharing out and making sure people find the show and all that. So there's that. Um, I brought up Valentine's Day coming up because that's when I like try to. Hey, Ian, good to see you, sweetie. How you doing? On a new tablet he is. Look at that. Movie night is so nice, isn't it, Froze? I mean, you get to sit in there and like share. It's like, man, I wish you could see that movie. I wish you could experience, the way they told this, or explained the ghost story here, or whatever it may be. And to get with people that really get it, and or you're guessing, or you're just working stuff out, or throwing out theories and ideas. I think it's just a great learning time. I really do. I mean, if I can't keep learning in something I'm interested in, I mean, you kind of just deadpan, right into a wall, don't you? I mean, you got to, and there's no way you could ever learn everything about the paranormal and supernatural, just metaphysical. There's no way, I think you could be very educated in certain areas of it and be a little bit more skilled than the next guy, through experience and logic and, all the good things. But I just don't think you can be an expert. And I think that word's thrown around a little bit too much. You may or may not agree with me, but look, I'm sitting here and I think I've been saying 50 years for 5 years, so it's longer than that. And I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm still learning, and I still get excited about watching a show like we watched Tuesday night. Our movie was Odd Thomas. And that is from a book series from Dean Koontz. I think it's 8 books in the series. Correct me if I'm wrong. And one movie was made. There has been rumors that they started to make another one, but the young actor who played Odd, that's his name, got killed, unfortunately, not very long ago. And of course, that production stopped. And then I heard they picked up another, and it was supposed to be released in February 2025. So we'll see. You never know with movies. So there you go. Yes, it has been a while. And I was just thinking about you today because I remember last Valentine's Day, you didn't understand. What is she talking about? She sounds like she's going off to, for Valentine's Day, some kind of like prison camp or something. And you know what? I've been in some shops where it was very much, very much. And if I didn't have kids to feed, believe me, those times I would not have put up with half of what I put up with. But welcome in. So, yes, we kept your seat warm. I hope you brought your snacks and have a good time tonight. So, there's that. I wanted to tell you it was Odd Thomas on Tuesday. And Thursday, I had some extra time, so I was able to find a really good copy of another favorite of mine. And I threw in a Thursday night movie. And I didn't have a lot of time to warn everybody. I kind of sent it out to my mods and said, if you can send this out, at least, if you can make it, and if somebody else is having a show or something like that, I don't ever want you to feel obligated, but it's up there on Rumble. No, those are only on Rumble. So if you are here tonight only on Facebook or YouTube, please get over to Rumble. It's free. It's also free speech. You can watch lots of current event news over there, lots of choices. You can watch, it's gaming. You can, all kind of stuff. They've got everything from bird watching channels all the way through, just like YouTube. But they don't censor. And you can also show things like movies as long as you don't monetize them. You can show them and do what I do. Share them with friends. It's like I said, it's like showing back when cable was just coming out, late 70s, early 80s, the big thing was get whoever had cable, you invited them over your house. I remember the first time we did that, I watched The Howling. It was so good, but it was such a big deal to see these movies and without commercials and without all the edits, because it used to be that you would see, say, like Planet of the Apes in the theater, and by the time 2 to 3 years later it got on the television, it would be all edited for television. All the curse words would be, damn dirty ape. I don't even think he got to say. Maybe he did. I don't know. It was the late 70s. I'm not sure if they let him. But there's that. So make sure you're on Rumble. Make sure you get over there and follow me there, because we're going to do shows there we can't do on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you do that today and you get over there, what I was going to do tonight is when I'm done here, if you want to join me, I got a good copy of the partner to Poltergeist, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. And it is very good. And they have, I forget the gentleman's name who played the, let's just say the bad guy in Poltergeist 2, was very ill when he did that movie, and he knew that this was his last go round. He gave it all he had, and boy, did he leave a lasting impression of scare the shit right out of you. I mean, if you were a kid and you saw this, I mean, it scares you as an adult to just like, wow, if I ever just faced that out of nowhere and had that kind of persona, character, and vibe coming at me, how would I react? And he really left a legacy on this one. So a lot of crazy things happened with Poltergeist and Poltergeist 2. And I believe there was a 3, but I don't think I ever bothered watching that. And are you working, Mud? Don't get caught. Don't get caught lurking. And if people died, Heather O'Rourke, Dominic Dunn. And we were talking about it after we saw the movie or when we were in the chat. And I went and looked that up. Her boyfriend strangled her. Her past boyfriend. She had broken up with him, and he was just a mental case. And I can say that. He was definitely a mental case. And looking into it, he had, I believe, Julian Beck. Thank you, Ted. And did he not strangle 2 before her? Or at least attacked 2 before and then killed 1 after her? He got let go because he gave manslaughter. In a couple of years, he came out and did something else. Yep. Oh, did it scare you to death? Did he? Yeah. Man, I'll tell you, it's a good movie. So if you want to hang with me after, Rose, we're going to watch it tonight. So I'd love to have you in the chat with me, my friend. And I'm actually going to try to cut this one down a half hour so that people don't have to stay up too late if you have to get out early tomorrow. I don't know, Ted, where you are. It already is tomorrow, right? And maybe some of you others too. So there's that. I appreciate you over on Rumble. Get over there, to all my members, to all the people who give me the rants and the like super chat is a rant on Rumble. Thank you so much, and thank you for those who've put wonderful donations in my PayPal. All of that goes to play StreamYard, and I am looking into other things because the last 3 shows, something has happened during the show where the whole screen went black. I mean, that's happened twice. I had to cut the show twice. Once I was able to get back in. It's been nuts. Ever since they doubled their price, their quality has kind of gone down. Vixen, good to see you, honey. And if they're listening, I hope they are. Because here's the thing. I think we're back in the... I can almost see common sense. We're so close to it, I can almost touch it. That we're coming back to a common sense time where when you buy something, it's supposed to work and it's supposed to last, not break. It might cost a little bit more, but it's putting good people to work, good people for good, honest pay where they can take care of their families and pay their bills. And the quality product is something that is worth paying a little extra for that. So that's how I feel about it anyways. That's my opinion. So, it seems like when they doubled their price, everything kind of went, so I'm looking for something else. But for right now, we're doing StreamYard, and you guys help me keep this on with the super chats and the memberships and everything else. The books have not arrived yet. I will let you know when they get here. And I am still working on some stuff right here to see if we can do a little grab bag or whatever. So welcome. Hey, Marie. Good to have you. Good to have you. You keep changing you're a hard one to keep up with because I think I know who this is. But so you like 4 or 5 different names and podcasts. My gosh, I get podcasts mixed up so much. So why tonight and what are we doing tonight? So tonight we are talking about a very mysterious place. And why is it mysterious? Why did I even think about this? Well, if you want to know a little bit how my twisted brain works, I started thinking about what we were just talking about, the holiday that's coming up. And believe me, they start talking about at the shop, they start talking about Valentine's before Christmas even over. ordering things for it and vases and what things are we going to do? And I'm like, you know, but so I was thinking about that, and it popped into my head every year since I was a kid and I first saw the movie St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Um, it just intrigued me. First of all, I remember I was real young, maybe 8, and the movie was on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon. And hey, Sarah, welcome in, honey. Hey to your son. I hope everything is well with you, darling. I was just thinking about you yesterday. And I remember when, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, this was a massacre that happened during Chicago's time of the gangsters, the original gangsters with Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly and all of them. Okay, that era. And it was a setup from one gang to another. Basically, it was Al Capone in Florida made the call and said, get it done. And they disguised themselves as police officers. And they went in like it was a raid and they shot everybody. And I remember asking my mom, man, that's just playing dirty. And, and that's when she sat down and she started telling me stuff about codes and honor among thieves and things like this. We really had that conversation. Because back then, too, there was a lot of gangster movies on. I mean, you had like, what was his name? Rathbone. I mean, you had all of the, gosh, I can't think of anybody anymore. Edward G. Robinson and people like that, and you Frank Sinatra. It was so many gangster movies. So it was right there for kids to see. Because believe me, you only had 3 or 4 channels on your television. So Sunday movie was Guys and Dolls. You were watching it, So gangsters came up a lot, and we knew we were in New Jersey. We had a lot of, what I mean? So my mom would tell me about that. It's like, there's a difference. You have to be honorable to your, your gang, your the people that you run with, your family, your tribe. We actually had that discussion because it didn't seem right to me to trick somebody like that. And I never liked it, as far as like undercover. So if you were like a police officer and you pretended you were a gangster and you befriended, gangsters or thieves or whatever, I understood it was something that necessary in certain ways, to do it. But it never felt right. It just felt just as bad as the other side. And I think that that's always been one of those fine line things, because I never understood, as like say Goodfellas, of course that came out much later, but there was plenty of gangster shows that were similar. And how they could go out and just gun down everybody and then go to a christening and, go eat a nice spaghetti dinner and everything's fine. Everything's good to go. We're just sorry and won't do it again. And 5 minutes later, you're beating the hell out of somebody with a baseball bat, throwing them in a trunk. I just never understood it. So there you go. Good, Sarah. I'm glad to see you here, honey. So I think because of that conversation, and I think because of the way my mom was really trying to explain that wrong is wrong, crime is crime, but what's worse is if you betray a friend, a buddy, a partner, a family member, whatever, that's even worse. I mean, if you're going to be, and trying to explain that thing to a kid, it really made an impact. So I think that's one of the reasons I kind of leaned into that whole era of gangsters and really got interested in them along with ghosts. I was already into true crime and stuff like that, and any soldier story when I was like 8 or 9. So St. Valentine's Massacre was always something I was trying to understand. And the more you dig into it, the more you learn about this one, that one, and how they'd always try to get the woman to throw over the guy, like, turn on the friends and stuff like that, and how easy it was for that one lady threatened to be deported, sent back to her country, turned in Dillinger, a friend, as somebody who'd been so kind to her for so long. And I just never understood how it was so simple to do that to somebody, even a criminal. It doesn't matter. You're friends with them, you're hanging with them. You see what I mean? You're obviously in that circle. Now you're going to be so easily swayed against that person. And I think that was one of the things that started to build my character early when it came to loyalty and trust and absolute disdain for the opposite, and not having it. You know, I could never do the whole undercover thing and betray somebody that way. Hey, Gerald, how you doing, honey? And it stuck with me. Spencer Tracy's another one. Absolutely. Yep. From like the 50s, Mud. Yep. Stacy or Tracy? Yep. Spencer Tracy. Yeah. And it was Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn were an item. Were they always back and forth? They were kind of like the Richard, what, oh gosh, see, names, Ted, I can't do it. What was her name with the diamonds and the purple eyes? And she was married like 6 times to the other one, and they were just, just as nutty as but they were probably made for each other. People love being abused, I guess. I don't know. What was it? Give it a delay a minute and we'll get an answer here anyway. So anyway, the St. Valentine's Massacre always blew my mind. So imagine my excitement when I'm like, I can't remember what grade it was. It was maybe 7th grade, where we got to start picking electives. So like you might have had a history and you got to pick from a block of like 8. So you'd pick 4, one section for each semester, right? So you might be able to pick from the Great Depression and crime, or you might be able to pick from another aspect of it. But I remember actually sitting down and being so excited to go violence in America, the gangster era from this time, and all this other stuff, and really learn about it. And I was sitting in class and I was having a conversation with my teacher, Mr. Roach. I'll never forget it. And we were talking about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And we were talking about criminal ethics and also, the way everything went down and the way it was handled after. And we started getting into the conversation of where everybody in town seemed to be okay with the gangsters and the criminals. Like, a lot of them would come in and like spread the money around town a little bit, like kind of like your Robin Hood kind of guys. Was a lot of them. Diamond, there were so many of them that were very similar like that. Good to their town. Sometimes just good to the town so they wouldn't tell that they were there hiding out, like in the Barker's case, Ma Barker and all them. So Dillinger was big on that too. So many. So having this conversation with this teacher, we were really talking about the effects of something like this on a town, on a city, like, whether it would be Chicago or, in the Midwest or wherever. And how the people reacted to these things, especially during the Depression, because if you were being done wrong by the banks, if you were getting foreclosed, Liz Taylor, that's it. Thank you. And Richard, what's his face? What was his name? Not Mickey Rooney. The one she was married to like 7 times, I don't know how many, they get divorced and married and fight and back together again. It was a big deal. They were both just lunatics and added alcohol to it. And it was just, and money and time apparently. So, but Richard, what is his damn name? Burton. Thank you. Okay. That's out. We can move past it. My gosh. Kevin Costner and Robert De Niro. Yeah. In Untouchables. Yep. So, we got to talking about that effect, and I thought that was so interesting because, as I got into the 60s and 70s, and I'm here in New Jersey, and I remember the riots that first burst out in New York, all around in many different states, but here in New Jersey, my perspective was watching Asbury Park burn, the riots and stuff. So that affected the town, and then the ripple afterwards and how long it took. And it really took a couple of decades to get things back. And then that's when I started noticing other things, a different kind of crime, a different kind of criminal, which was like the local governments and, all of them. And that just kept going up. And I'm like, I'm watching what they're doing. I'm like, okay. You let it go bad, and then you leave it, and then you sell it cheap, and then the people have to, and it was always the little guy getting the stick end of the stick, if you know what I mean. And it just really ticked me off. So it was just always an amazing trip into the human character of, first of all, what creates a criminal, what makes somebody take that turn and that choice, and then what happens after when their deeds and their actions affect a community, and then how does the community react, and then how much will the community take, and what turns them to change their mind, especially when it goes in a flow. It's a very interesting concept to think about, right? Well, in the case of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, it was so much on top of so much death. But everybody in the town or the cities seemed to feel like, as long as they're killing each other, so be it. Because there was a lot of people making money one way or another off of this type of crime. So, whether they were making money selling the beard or in Prohibition, or whether they were, whatever. So it's always been really interesting to me. And we've never quite gotten all the answers on it, even though we assume that it's pretty well, believed that Al Capone was the one who made the phone call to say, we're doing this, and then went to Florida. And while he was there in Miami, this travesty was pulled off. And there was a couple of innocent people that were there. It was just a mechanic. He knew who he was hanging with. He knew what he was doing. I don't think he was part of any crime. He didn't deserve, he wasn't a killer or anything like that. He did aid and abet because he fixed the vehicles, but they paid him to do that, and it was honest work. And Highball the dog, beautiful German Shepherd, and that was kind of an innocent, well, not kind of, I mean, it was absolutely innocent, had no, choice to be there, and then had to witness. It was all tied up when all this happened. So I always feel for the animals that get involved in this crap, the horses in a war, the whole shebang. I just hate it. We got to do better. We got to do better. We got to take care of nature. And maybe then we'll learn to take care of each other. Who knows? Yes, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. There we go, Sarah. Thank you. All together. So that bugged me. And then, like I said, the way the town reacted after the fact, then people started being, oh, this is not, it's getting a little out of hand now. And these were people that were celebrating the Dillingers, and so you could kind of see the turn then. And the fact that, Al Capone was pretty much skating through any of this until the very end. And we've studied Al Capone's part in this, and, whether through Alcatraz or through the St. Valentine's Massacre, or when we were talking about even in Cleveland torso murders, because you've got, the Untouchables working on all of that, and the frustration of the whole thing at the end there, where he actually was, with all the hard work, going after the bootleg and the crime, the murders, the prostitution, and everything else. What does he get put away for? Tax evasion and having 2 sets of books. So pretty crazy stuff. But I thought, since we were so close to Valentine's Day, why not? And we'll talk. I have a short video that I did. I know I showed it to you guys about 3 years ago when we were doing a deep dive on gangsters, and I just want to show it to you again. It's kind of short, but it gives you a little background on, if you're not familiar with some of the things that were going on with Al Capone. This is a good amount of information to have, because oddly enough, Al Capone had some pretty scary things happen to him in Alcatraz. And not only is Al Capone seen there, but the story around what he saw when he was in Alcatraz is pretty darn interesting. So I've got some snippets throughout. This is one I did. This is a video I did, like I said, probably about 3 years ago, but it still holds true today. And it'll give you a little background on that. And then we'll move into Alcatraz, and we'll have a couple of those clips and a couple of stories about hauntings, but I also have a little bit about some of the things that happened there, that some of it you may have heard of and maybe some you didn't. And then we've got some a terrific clip again with I don't think any better was Peter James walking through Alcatraz and telling the whole story through the residual energy that was there, and also through a few ghosts that are still there. And people have seen the same, had experience with those same ghosts before and after, and very recently. So I think it'll be interesting. And then again, like I said, don't forget, if while you're here, if you need any help signing up into Rumble, if you're having any problems showing up over there, I know Vixen, you said you were having some problems. It's possible if you want to go in, and maybe if you have another email, you can always go in and make another Rumble account, maybe on a laptop, and use a different email and just open up a whole different thing and see if that works. I've had people do that. Sometimes they just shut down their other account and open up another one. It's very difficult to change like names or anything like that once you've got your Rumble account set up. But other than that, they're pretty good with helping you out in their customer service too. And like I said, for free, it's a great platform and it's growing. So there you go. Yeah, that's true, Ted. Halfway to Florida. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. Got halfway house in Mount Eagle, Tennessee. He's also, Al Capone is also responsible for the expiration date on milk. He did a lot. The expiration date on milk, that is a fact. And he gave an awful lot, opened a lot of soup kitchens and things like that. But here's the thing. You have to understand, when you say that Al Capone opened, paid and helped people, and he opened soup kitchens and he did these things and donated to orphanages and stuff like that, it's not Al Capone's money. It's the money he stole and the money he made on bootleg liquor and prostitution and everything else, and from stealing from other gangs and other people and businesses. So again, it's very much like a Robin Hood thing, but a little bit nastier. These are not nice people. And I don't want to tell you in any way that I admire them or anything else. The thing is you learn from them. And one thing like I said in the beginning, there's a honor among thieves, but it's also at the very same time you're riding in a car, you're driving in a car, and the guy behind you that you've been friends with for 30 years pulls a gun out in the back of the head because somebody higher up told him to, and he's going to do. So there's no comfort in it. There's never closing both eyes at the same time. And I just never understood how, you could live so fast, but so frivolous with your time here on earth. You know what I mean? It's like you could do better. So there you go. Rose, what are you saying here? What you got going on? My great uncle Chester Smith in Ohio for a long time was credited for shooting Pretty Boy Floyd. Oh, was he really? He was a sniper in World War I. FBI takes credit now. Yeah, and I totally agree, Froze, and I'll bet you the first one is true, because I'm going to show you something tonight that you guys are probably very familiar with, but I think I found a couple of things here in the little tidbits at the end that you may not have heard. And we'll bring that up again, Froze, because here's the thing. They don't think anything about changing a narrative and making it, for the FBI not to look bad, and they'll lie. And, I've watched them, cover up bad things that happen to kids and just squash it to entire soccer teams and cheerleading teams and everything else over time. I've watched Hoover. I've watched a guy the other day sit there and just totally take Hoover's side and say what a wonderful guy he was and all this other. And the whole time, are we talking about the same guy? Because he was a blackmailer. He did all kinds. He was LBJ's friend, lived across the street from LBJ. Don't get me started. He was just a blackmailing lunatic. I've never liked anybody who came out and demeaned other people for not being at, up to whatever level, they needed to be. And then behind scenes, you're doing 10 times worse. That is probably one of the most despicable kind of human beings there is you two-faced. And in Native American, the sign language for two-faced is this. And then you had the forked tongue. Forked tongue also means liar. It's not, speak with forked tongue is not a compliment, and two-faced. And we didn't even have those until we had a problem back early with people coming over and going, hey, look what I discovered. And I got one of those stories tonight too. It's crazy. It's crazy how somebody could come here and they have people living here and it still says in the books, discovered in 1762. Discovered by, what do you mean? We discovered it 200 years ago. People were here, So we have one of those stories about Alcatraz. So without further ado, here we go. A little reminder about St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Spread the love. He just got pardoned, by the way, Vixen. He's finally out. Spoke with his wife. He's a good guy. Pelletier. Spread the love, baby.
February 14, 1929, the year of the Black Bottom, 6-day bicycle races, flagpole sitting, and the first flight from Paris to New York. Mickey Mouse makes his screen debut, and Herbert Hoover is inaugurated as the 31st president with the words, "We in America today are nearer to the final triumph over poverty than ever before in any land." 6 months later, the New York stock market will crash and bring about the greatest depression in world history. In the city of Chicago, the time is 10:25 a.m. The temperature, 18 above zero.
you imagine buying the bricks? They're cursed. Woo, glad to see you got out of jail, baby. Hang in there.
Okay, Mike. Quiet, Trench. George, is that you? Hello, boys. Something I can do for you?
Yeah, you can shut up. I'll line up, all of you. Face that wall.
You, over there.
Come on, move.
No way.
Let's go.
You two.
All right, you two, let's go.
Listen, Buster. You better be kidding.
Move.
Rosy flat feet. Wait till you hear about this downtown. Move! Hey! You! You on the car! Let's go. Let's go.
Sir, I'm just a mechanic here.
Let's go.
All I do is work on the automobiles. I don't
Move,
know what to
Gibby.
do with these people.
Come on. Move. Hands on the wall. Lean on it.
There's that loyalty. Told them nothing. I'd say those things are so much fun. When they don't jam, woo! Such a good tune. Blue Moon. Smoke Jacket Blues by Track Tribe. Good stuff. So there you have it. That made a huge impression on little 8-year-old Cisco and made me a lover of history and studying what makes people so damn violent? And what would make you, I don't know, it just, what makes you turn like that? To me, that's just so unacceptable. You know what I mean? I could see going in, and I don't like the drive-by thing either. I think that's, these gangsters are what made that popular. The drive-by, that was a big thing. Right around now is when it really started getting hairy, where innocent bystanders were getting hit in restaurants and things like that to go after one guy. It was getting way out of hand, like it wasn't before. But you saw there where the public had just had enough at that point, and then Hoover went a little nuts to get Capone, and that was it. It was over, and that's when the Untouchables were all put together, and everything stemmed from that. But where did Capone go when they finally got him? Well, he went to a couple places. They moved him around quite a bit. But when Alcatraz got opened up, that was supposed to be for the worst of the worst. So think of it as their Gitmo at the time, okay? And when you have a place like that, I can't imagine what it was like as a prisoner to get on that boat, that ferry, whatever you want to call it, that's going across and you're leaving civilization and getting on this island. And it's going to be hard getting off. And there's been a few escapes. They had their riots that we'll hear about tonight. And the thing was about Alcatraz, it was set up to break a hard prisoner. They set what they considered the worst of the worst there. The Bird Man of Alcatraz got moved there. And when he was there, he had no birds. He had no nothing. Alcatraz wasn't putting up with any of that. Their solitary confinement was hideous. You had boxer shorts, and that was it. You were in this dark hole 24/7, and it was horrible. And there was no rehabilitation. There was no anything. This was just to break a person. And in that case, I don't want to get into any big philosophical conversation here, but I just think there's more we could do, I mean, I've seen a lot of different things. I've looked at clouds from both sides now. I've seen, jail systems and county jails and prisons and, let's not get into all that, but seeing what they're like on the inside and seeing what's going down. And, it just got to the point where, corruption got a hold of it. So it's like free labor in a lot of places. It's basically just slavery in another form. But then you could look at it and go, oh yeah, but these people, did this to get here. And it gets so murky and mucky. So if you could take a person like, let's say Bonnie and Clyde's case, you got Clyde, who grew up in the situation he grew up in the times he grew up in the town he grew up in, watching everybody lose their farms and struggling to make it. And everybody in town is boosting cars or doing this or doing that, getting the banks. That's when you had people robbing the banks that are foreclosing on, your neighbor's house and their farm, and people are losing everything. Somebody gets the bank. Everybody's like, yay, somebody got the bank, somebody gave them a good swift kick in the butt, and it's always like that, because you want to see the person that you put the boot on your back and pushed you into the ground and had you lose everything, get theirs. And I think that's one of the things that goes back and forth. But then you get to these points where you watch something like that and you say, all right, here's two of the same ilk. What does it matter if they're killing each other? But is there a line? Is there a blurred line there that says, that was just uncalled for? It was so down. It was so dirty. It was like they took the guns off of them and everything else and shot unarmed people in cold blood. I just don't think that that's ever, called for. But then if you put yourself in a situation, where say you're George Washington and it's Christmas Eve and, you're all down in the third, you know what I mean? You hadn't won anything. And if you don't do what you're going to do, you're probably going to lose a country that never had a chance to be born yet. So you do something, in this case, we won't call it down and dirty. We'll call it strategic. And you cross the Delaware in the ice one at a time, silent at night. You creep in and you hit a bunch of drunk Hessians and you win a battle. And in that case, you win a chance to move on and possibly become a country. And the people that died before in this battle is not in vain because you made another milestone. So again, I think it's all in the eye of, the times and the eye of the beholder and who's making the decision and can you live morally like that. But personally, Never for it. Was never for it. I think it stinks. And I'm so mad about the dog. And I've been mad about the dog since I was 8 years old. So there you go. There you go. I hope you are too. I hope y'all are pissed now. So what's going on in Alcatraz? Why did Al wind up there? Well, again, like I said, he's not the only one. We've talked about, Alvin Karpis being there from the Barker gang, right? When we studied Alvin Karpis and the Barkers and their saga, we heard a lot about Alcatraz. We heard what it looked like from the inside because he was able to get out and tell us about it. He was there for, I think, almost 30 years, wasn't he? Maybe 32. And how he first was introduced to the Bird Man of Alcatraz was supposedly just a real wanker. I mean, he was just out of his mind. He was in Alcatraz. He got moved to Alcatraz and lost his privileges with his birds because he killed a guard. So the aspect of Al Capone at Alcatraz has so many colors to it. It's insane. He's got extra privileges. He's got it done up like I'll show you a picture of it. It looked like an old a putana lived there. If you speak Italian, you know what putana is. It's a hoe. It looked like a French whore lived there. He had all this brocade stuff going on, and all this paint peeling off the wall, and this little sliver of light coming from a window above. But he had a radio, and he had an easy chair, and things like that. There you go. Absolutely, there is a line, Mud, right? And I mean, honor among thieves. Here's this guy that was so deep. That's why I put it in there. He lives 3 hours and doesn't tell the cops nothing. Just between us. We'll handle it. With him, he died with honor. Insane. Not even angry to the point of they had to know that it must have been whose gang it was that came in there and did that. He never said anything. It's like that rotten son of a gun. Not even that. So that's all these young, and a lot of them were really young. They look old, but they were 20s, early 30s. God, can you imagine? Again, in another time, in another place, it could have been us, right? So what is next? Al Capone gets moved. He goes to Alcatraz. He's got a lot of privileges and things like that. But somebody mentioned here, Ian, was it you or Mud, who said that he played the banjo. So he was allowed to play banjo in Alcatraz. And again, they didn't have a lot. They were able to maybe play checkers. They had like a little board that they would put up in between the cells sometimes at night to play checkers. A lot of times it was dead silent. You weren't allowed to talk. I just can't imagine spending 30 years like that. I mean, my God, who are we, to be doing this kind of thing? And the sad part about it is when they did close down Alcatraz, it wasn't, we started to get into a little more of the reform where it wasn't so much the hard punishment of trying to just break a person and just break his spirit like we take wild horses and break them, if you know what I mean. So these guys are just learning to be, what did they learn? It's like Shawshank Redemption. You get out after a while. It's like, old Red, he only got paroled, but he said he just didn't give a shit anymore. And then they let him go and you put him out into the world. What are they going to do now? No halfway house, no nothing. Just figure it out. How does that turn out? So we got to do better anyway. And to me, I don't think we've done much better since, but the only reason they closed down Alcatraz was because they like to say that they were thinking more about reform, but here's the truth. It was falling apart. You got all the salt water and you've got the way it was built. It just wasn't holding up. It was really coming apart. You'll see some pictures here tonight that probably tell you that. But let's move on to, is it this one? Oh, here we go. Pushing buttons, Ted. Hang on. Do you want to put the seatbelt sign on or do you want to just wing it? Or do we have faith tonight? Don't forget Poltergeist 2 after the show. I'm going to be in the chat. I'm going to get my bowl of popcorn and I want to see this one with you. And if you saw Poltergeist or Odd Thomas, if you want to throw up a comment about what you thought about it after the fact, or if there was a specific part in that you really got something from or had a question about, please put it in the chat and I'll try to get it. But put it in with like a Q or put it in all caps or something like that so I'll see it. Boom, 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 boom. I think this is it. Oh, let's do this one because this is a little introduction. It's a little short introduction to Alcatraz. And we'll get a little information that way.
Most people associate Alcatraz Island with its role as a federal penitentiary, but its history is much more complex. We like to say on Alcatraz, it has many layers of history. Now, of course, the first layer would be the natural side of Alcatraz. This was a 22-acre rock covered with bird guano, and it was a bird rookery. And we believe that the Native Americans that lived in the area possibly came for food source, stealing some of those bird eggs, and rested as they traveled across the San Francisco Bay. But as far as we can tell, they never lived on Alcatraz. The first inhabitants to arrive was the United States Army to build a fortress in the middle of the San Francisco Bay. 1853, they arrived. And by the time the Civil War started, we had roughly 100 cannon mounted on Alcatraz with about 400 soldiers. The island never saw any action. And we like to say we helped save the Civil War with the cannons of Alcatraz Island, along with the other fortresses in the bay. At the turn of the century, the military decided to give Alcatraz a new mission. The cannons were obsolete, and in 1907, Alcatraz became a disciplinary barracks for Army soldiers that broke military law. Behind me, you can see the remnants of the warden's house. The first lighthouse on the West Coast was on Alcatraz Island, and the penitentiary that everyone comes to see was built by U.S. soldiers that were imprisoned on Alcatraz. And after 3 years of construction, they moved into their new penitentiary building in 1912. And roughly 600 jail cells are inside that building. During the 30s, with the Depression, the Army decided after 80 years that they would leave the island, and the Bureau of Prisons opened up as a maximum security prison. And they brought in the guard towers that you see today, and the case hardened steel bars, tool proof bars, escape proof bars. And of course, Al Capone arrives in August of 34. And there were roughly about 1,500 convicts that did time during the 29 years, as Alcatraz was an escape-proof maximum security prison. It closes in 1963 because of operating costs. Same reason that the military leaves. Federal Bureau of Prisons leaves the island, and the island was up for grabs. And in 1969, after the prison has been closed for several years, a group of activists called the Indians of All Tribes came to the island to protest for Native American civil rights. The 19-month stay on the island was a key moment in that community's history. And it is a big part of the history. And as Christian mentioned, the political messaging, Indian land that you see on the dock is historic, and we interpret that layer of history. In 1973, after acquiring the island and creating the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, the National Park Service opened Alcatraz to the public on October 26, 1973. And the first tours were led by the Rangers, and it has been a huge success. Our telling of that history of Alcatraz has evolved, and many of the themes of Alcatraz, criminal justice, human rights, are important today as they were in 1973.
So true, so true. So there we go. That's John Cantwell from the Rangers over there at Alcatraz. And you can go see Alcatraz now. People have asked me, said, Cisco, you ever do, I would do an investigation there. I don't do stuff like taunting people. I would sit in one of the cells with the doors open, pried open, big old things in front of the door so it wouldn't shut. And I would sit in there and pull energy and see if I could cross them. But I would also have to have some other people with me who would at the same time be holding back all the other stuff. So you could talk to the one who was willing to work through it. I know Peter James did that for at least one of the people at Alcatraz. I've known many different mediums gone through those thereafter over the years, and I'm telling you, the residual in there is so heavy, so bad. And again, when people ask you, would you go in the middle of a battlefield? Yes, and I've done it. But when you come up, you get so drained. I know people that have done these rescue missions and just went up in the hospital, sick, just completely messed up. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot. So when I tell you I wouldn't want to go and put myself through going into an asylum, or in a sanitarium, or some of these other places like Penn State, or something along these lines, where people were treated so horrible, here too. Any kind of place like this. You are walking through such a wall of residual on top of the active. You had people here in Alcatraz killed in their cells by ghosts. And that's one of the reasons why I love the story of Alcatraz, just for that reason, because it's something I can point to tell people, excuse me, you need to be taking this a little more seriously. And it's very irresponsible to be spreading, things that you may think are true, but may not be for everybody, because you can't blanket paint with a broad brush that ghosts can't hurt you. How many times have we heard this? Ghosts can't hurt you. Honey, I've known ghosts that kill people outright. Poof, deader than dirt. And now sometimes it takes time, and they keep working on it and keep working on it, keep working on it until they finally break the person down. But plain and simple, I've known to push them down the stairs and kill them. Okay. And entities as well. Not just ancient things or entities or things that were never human, which is a whole different category. Yes, they can hurt you. Absolutely. And to lie to somebody and tell them that they can't, it's much better to say, yes, in certain cases they could, but here are the tools to prevent that from happening. That's what I try to do. So Alcatraz is a great teaching tool to tell people that, yes, this stuff can happen. And excuse me, how crazy is it that, try this one on. If Al Capone was accused of causing the St. Valentine's Day massacre, if he's in Miami, Florida, massacre happens in Chicago, okay? The guys that were killed never left that wall. The only one that did lived for 3 hours and then passed. And he was not the ghost that was in the cell with Al Capone, making him insane. People like to throw it off and say that it was the syphilis. Yes, I'm sure that had something to do with it. However, 3 different guards heard another voice coming out of that cell on more than one occasion. That a lot of times that information is shoved under the rug, and people just say, Al had syphilis. He was out of his damn mind. That's why they got him out of Alcatraz. All that's true, but they both can be true at the same time. Don't let people lie to you and give you half truth and let that, you walk away and shut your door on that whole thing, because they had a narrative. We've had too much of that. We need the truth, the facts on the table. We're old enough, we're adults enough to sort those facts, and if not, be damned. But at least we're offered the facts and not a bunch of bullshit. Okay? And I'm right there with you, Froze. They just switch it the way they want. Hoover and the FBI has done that for a long time. They had a hell of a week this week. I'm just telling you. It's definitely FAFO. I'm telling you right now. And I think that's what happened to Al. Because paranormally, when you look at a situation like that, what does that tell you? If Al believes that he is being haunted by one of the victims from St. Valentine's Day Massacre in his cell in Alcatraz, California, he was in Florida, massacre happened in Chicago, deader than a doornail on the floor. Now he's an earthbound spirit. Hey, Davey, how you doing, sweetheart? Arr. Did you bring rum? I hope you brought some for the whole class. Just start passing the bottle around, honey. No need. We don't even need glasses if you didn't bring any. So this tells you what? That in some way, even a criminal of that caliber, under extreme duress, obviously, the worst kind, surprise, wasn't planning on dying. They just thought that they were getting arrested. They all thought they were all going, in the paddy wagon. That, that they didn't take the money when they came in, the payoff. Like they always pay people off, the cops, when they came in. That's why they were laughing like they were. And that kind of thing really happened. That means that even as an earthbound spirit, without crossing over and releasing all of that earthly burden, all the chains forged in life and all that kind of mess, right? Had the knowledge telepathically, apparently, to go right to Al Capone, and knew that he was the one that did it. So what did that look like? Was he hanging around? You see where I'm coming from? It's an amazing question. Was he hanging around the garage and, the cop shop? Did he follow the ambulances and hear people talking? I bet you Al Capone did this. I bet you where's Al Capone? How did he do that? How did he manifest himself to Al Capone? They weren't connected in love. He went and found him, met up in his cell, and tormented him. I think it followed him back because he was released. Al Capone was released back to his home in Miami, I believe. Miami. And it followed him there. But at that point, he was so far gone, nobody in the house admitted they ever heard the ghost, like the guards did in Alcatraz. So very interesting. So you can think about that, like, how would that go down? How does that happen? And is it similar? Again, if it had been like a mom and a son, or if it had been, a husband and wife or something like that, I could say, okay, well, they followed that love energy. They were already connected before. There's none of that there. I mean, I'm guessing, but I don't think there was a lot of love energy going on between, Al Capone and this other gangster, right, Jimmy? So interesting question. What happened there? And how cool is that you may have that ability? And how does that happen? Was there just so much anger? Like the opposite? And it connected? Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, that one, I can't even wrap my head around. I have so many questions about that. So there's that. With the next little bit we've got, this one here is about 20 minutes. But I think it's so interesting. And if for any reason it stops on YouTube, we'll just shut YouTube down again. I highly recommend you get over there to Rumble so you can watch this stuff with us. They don't stop us. They just keep on going, and they have a ball. We have all kinds of emojis. Somebody's throwing bacon and a crispy. Thanks, Rose. Isn't he look cute in his little revolutionary hat, his little American flag? He's adorable. And throwing out the bacon to everybody. Bacon is love here. And if you're not sub, please hit the sub button. It doesn't cost a bit. Hit the like if you don't want to commit to being a sub on YouTube. If you're over on Rumble, please hit the like there. And please follow us. And that would be great. And get free movies during the week and all kinds of stuff. And some good conversation over there. My chat is just bar none. So without further ado, a little haunting in Alcatraz.
The Rock, Alcatraz. Over 1,500 men have lived in this crucible of anger, frustration, and violence. And there isn't a single visitor who doesn't feel that legacy. The Rock no longer houses inmates, but the haunting question remains: do the souls of prisoners still walk these ruins? cross this threshold to places of mystery. Just across the bay from San Francisco, Alcatraz draws over 1 million visitors a year from around the world. They arrive by the boatload.
He did.
Welcome to the Rock. Welcome to Alcatraz.
They expect a safe window into the turbulent past, a momentary taste of life behind bars. They don't know there's another secret world hidden within these walls. But this ex-convict knows, and despite his years of imprisonment, he's compelled to return here time and time again.
I believe that this island is haunted. Every time I went to them cell blocks, somehow or another I could feel it. It was the island of the damned.
This journalist came here a skeptic, but one shocking moment changed his views on the supernatural.
I do not believe in ghosts, so when this occurred, it put a whole new pathway for me personally.
While roaming the halls of Alcatraz, this paranormal investigator also had a personal encounter with the spirit world.
I found one entity. So, to me, I believe it's haunted, and I believe that this entity belongs to the prison.
Alcatraz was the harshest of the federal prisons. Inmates hardly ever had visitors and were allowed little time in the yard. They spent most of their day alone, confined to a 5 by 9 foot cell. Inmates were banished to this island prison not by the courts, but by the wardens from other penitentiaries who couldn't control them.
They call all those guys the incorrigibles, and that's why we were sent here.
Leon Whitey Thompson, a convicted bank robber, spent 4 years on Alcatraz. He was sent there from McNeil Island Penitentiary. Even now at 77, his memories are still so vivid, it's like he's traveled back in time.
On Alcatraz here, don't underestimate any of these guys, because on this island, nothing will end in a simple fight. If you step on a toe, it's going to wind up in a death, because we didn't play no games here.
At least a dozen men died trying to escape from the rock. So why would anyone want to return?
I have feelings for this old island. It's like it's alive, and it knows me, and I keep coming back.
One of his visits to Alcatraz took Whitey on a trip the tough ex-con could never have imagined. A brief journey to the other side. Johnny House, a convicted murderer, was one of Whitey's closest friends at Alcatraz.
Johnny House, I like Johnny House. He's a big, tough Texan. The reason why I liked him because he walked in his own shoes.
The last day Whitey saw Johnny House was on October 25th, 1962, the day Whitey was released from prison.
I was leaving the island, and I stopped at Johnny House's cell. I remember telling him, you know, I'm getting out. It was nice knowing you, Johnny. And I remember him saying, it's my pleasure. It's just like reliving it. I remember that day. As I started walking down Broadway after I said so long to him, I didn't want him to see me, because like I am now, I was dropping tears. And I knew that this was the last time, probably never see him again. And old Johnny died later on in prison.
But for one astonishing moment, Whitey actually saw his old friend Johnny again. One day, 20 years after Whitey's release, he was waiting to give a lecture to visitors about his time on Alcatraz.
And I was up in the cell house. I was alone in the cell house, kind of reminiscing. And so I walked over around the corner here in front of my cell, and I happened to look down the end of corridor here. We call this Michigan Avenue. And way down the end there, I seen this like a black silhouette, and a big tall guy. And I know he was staring down this way. I couldn't see his face. He was all black, but he was staring down this way. And I was wondering who it was. Then all of a sudden, he disappeared from sight over behind B Block. And I quickly ran down to the cutoff and to run around to try to intercept him. And I got around there, and I couldn't see him nowheres. And when I got up there was nobody there. And the doors was locked. They were locked, and it was gone. And I just know that this was Johnny House. I could feel the vibe. I could just feel that this was Johnny House. The way he walked, it was just like the way Johnny House moved. And I don't care what anyone says, I know that was Johnny House.
That day turned the hard-nosed, skeptical ex-convict into a true believer in the supernatural.
I believe this old prison has a lot of spirits here, or ghosts, whatever you want to call them, and for some reason or other, they don't go on to the next plane.
8 men were murdered here by other inmates. Not surprising, considering that many of those held on America's Devil's Island were the most notorious men in our nation's criminal history. Legendary gangsters like Al Scarface Capone, Los Angeles kingpin Mickey Cohen, Machine Gun Kelly, and the famous Birdman Robert Stroud all passed from this world to the next. Yet Whitey Thompson believes that the souls of these dangerous men still rule this prison with malevolent force.
A lot of these guys that are dead and gone now still carry a lot of hatred with them. Some of these spirits are still hanging around here.
We'll delve deeper into the strange history of Alcatraz when we come back, and meet a man who stood watch over the world's most notorious convicts. The mysterious history of Alcatraz predates the prison itself. Shunned by local Indians as a place of evil spirits, the island was first occupied during the gold rush of the 1850s by the U.S. Army. To protect the gold-laden harbor from attack, they built a fortress complete with dungeons. In 1909, the Army tore down much of the citadel to build a modern prison. The first floor became the foundation for the new facility, and the jailers found a new purpose for its darkened rooms.
These are called the Spanish dungeons. Those dungeons were built as storage areas for the Army. The Army used them for sometimes putting unruly Indians in there, too. And they also put unruly Army inmates in there.
According to the inmates who were chained to the walls or the floor and left for days, it was highly effective. Just above the old dungeons are their modern counterparts, the cold, unlit cells reserved for solitary confinement. The isolation drove many men insane, but even madness was preferable to death at the hands of a legendary, invisible killer. According to one account, an inmate screamed for 3 days that there was another man in his isolation cell. When guards could no longer ignore his cries, they finally opened his door, and the inmate was found dead, with unexplainable marks around his neck. But that is just one of the many bizarre episodes that mark the prison's traumatic history, that includes some of the most daring breakouts ever attempted.
They had a total of 36 inmates and 14 tried to escape from Alcatraz. Most were brought back, some were shot and killed, and some drowned.
The impenetrability of Alcatraz only added to its mystique.
No media was ever allowed over here. They kept all media out, no newspapers, anything like that was allowed here on Alcatraz Island.
If a guard on this island ever got caught talking to a reporter or anybody, he was fired immediately.
That's the mystery. That's the mystique. You know, what's going on that island? What is going on?
Frank Heaney was just 21 when he came to work on Alcatraz as a prison guard. He served from 1948 to 1951. It would be the longest 3 years of his life.
I'll tell you what made the job tough for me is that we were living in an era of doom, gloom, despair, and despondency. Every day it prevailed it. You could feel it when you walked in. You could feel it when you walked out.
Though he survived his wounds, other inmates were stabbed to death in this same location. Park Ranger Laurie Brosnan says that visitors often report a disturbing chill when they pass through this area.
A nighttime security guard who was on patrol, he's the only man in the building, and he walks into the shower room basement area and he feels a hand on his shoulder, turns around, nobody's there. That was spooky for him.
In 1963, Attorney General Robert Kennedy ordered the decaying prison closed. The remaining inmates were either paroled or transferred to other prisons. Though the cells are now empty, a lingering presence remains.
If any place was going to have a mysterious, a ghosty type effect, I think it would be here in Alcatraz with the characters that are on this island, the things that have happened over the years, some of the bad things of people being killed.
When we come back, the most vicious incident in the prison's history. Plus, some ghost hunters who got a lot more than they bargained for. May 1946, the date of the largest and most deadly escape ever attempted at the Rock, known as the Battle for Alcatraz. Prison guards, along with Marine troops, battled 6 armed inmates for 48 hours. 3 of the inmates, Clarence Carnes, Sam Shockley, and Myron Thompson, retreated to their cells and were captured. The other 3, Bernard Coy, Marvin Hubbard, and Joseph Kretzer, were cornered in the utility corridor between cell blocks. The guards tossed hand grenades into the corridor from above and fired machine guns from the doorway. Coy, Hubbard, and Kretzer died in the battle. 36 years later, the spirits of the 3 men who died in that corridor materialized with the help of a most unlikely ally.
Took out a shop, and they're still on the scene. They're concerned about...
Award-winning broadcaster Ted Wygant is an institution in San Francisco radio. In 1982, the ever-skeptical Wygant invited well-known psychic Gene Borgen to spend the night on Alcatraz looking for ghosts.
We were spending the night on Alcatraz. Rangers would be with us, and the object was to see if we could find a ghost or two.
For hours, Ted and Gene searched much of the prison with minimal results. However, when they crossed the threshold of the utility corridor, they had the encounter of a lifetime.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, we went into the utility alleyway between the 2 cell blocks. This was the passageway in which the 3 men were finally trapped. The door was closed, it was pitch black, and he started calling for whatever the troubled spirits were. And quite frankly, I thought, this is really stupid. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, I haven't had any sleep, and we're doing this. Why?
The answer came in a shocking rush of undeniable power.
Suddenly, I got this tremendous feeling of anger, and I felt this presence beneath us in the dirt where these 3 men had died. It was something different and fearful, because it was this total anger, maybe bordering on rage at what was beneath us, and it was an evil. I felt an evil beneath us. At that point, I recall feeling that if I had a gun, I would have started shooting in the direction of where these, whatever they were beneath us.
Ted, he actually yelled something very sharp, very angry, and there were a few little cuss words in there, and that's what alerted me that something was really wrong. So I turned directly to him, and at that point, his face was very changed. It was like I wasn't looking at Ted. Something was in that corridor that I was seeing and feeling, and that Ted, I know, was feeling. You could just see the anger and hate coming out of his eyes, and this is not a typical Ted at all. And at that point, I immediately reacted to his anger. It was very traumatic. I mean, the anger and hate I felt toward him at that moment was astounding. I was going to kill him to get out of that corridor. I was going to strangle him to death, but I was going to get over him and out that door.
Concerned for Ted and herself, Jean asked that the door be opened.
And at that particular point, Ted sort of shook and his face then relaxed. And then I was looking at Ted again. And then the minute he relaxed, I relaxed.
I was extremely bothered with what had happened. For me, at that moment, it was absolutely real.
3 vicious killers had died violently in the narrow room. Is it possible that the spirits of Coy, Kretzer, and Hubbard remain entombed within that corridor?
It still is difficult for me. I can't say that there was something there. I can only say that something happened.
Other attempts to explore the paranormal aspects of Alcatraz have proven equally disturbing. A psychic who was taking the tour of the prison was paralyzed with fright when a man materialized in a cell and threatened her with a weapon. Even those who work at Alcatraz are not immune to its unexplained power. Lori Brosnan first visited the island as a child with her father, a freelance cinematographer. She is now a park ranger, stationed on Alcatraz for the last 12 years.
I've heard late at night when I'm in a cell trying to doze off to sleep, I've heard the cell doors sound, which is a very unique sound. The devices that operate those cell doors are locked. I am the only one on the island with a key, so there's no way anybody else could be creating that sound. The sound of the cell door, I really heard it. It was not a dream, it was something I heard.
Night watchmen, alone on the island, have heard the sounds of harmonicas playing, doors opening and closing, and inmates whispering amongst themselves.
Anytime you come to a real historical facility like Alcatraz, you expect to find activity of some kind.
Dr. Larry Mons and Dana Smoller of the International Society for Paranormal Research are exploring the prison for evidence of paranormal activity.
Earlier this morning, we were just really primarily going through to kind of see if maybe I picked up on some different kinds of clairvoyant information.
They first explored D Block, solitary confinement.
Yeah, I don't feel anybody in here.
Dana and Larry found nothing of consequence until they went into the old laundry building. As Dana walked through the sewing area on the second floor, Larry followed with a magnetometer, a device which measures changes in magnetic fields.
Yeah, because my hands are just, they're just buzzing so tremendously right through here. And now it feels like pins. I'm getting pins in the ears.
As they continued their walk through the area, Dr. Mons monitored his magnetometer.
Wait, it spiked again.
You know what? I just got pain right through here, right standing.
And it just spiked. As soon as you walked past this area, it spiked.
It's right. Right when I crossed over here.
Yeah. And now it's gone again.
And again, a few minutes later, the magnetometer jumped.
Look at this. Look at that. See, now it spiked pretty high. Unless there's a really electromagnetic device right here somewhere that would cause that to take place, I could see that, but there was nothing. And here we are in the middle of the room getting 0, and all of a sudden now it spikes. So what this means with a temporary electromagnetic field, there's definitely some type of paranormal activity taking place now.
But is there any connection between their experience in the room and past events? A subsequent conversation with head ranger Craig Glassner revealed this little-known fact. A lethal knife attack did indeed once take place in the sewing area.
There was a movie a few years ago called Murder in the First, in which a murder occurs between inmates in the mess hall. In fact, it was in that building that Henry Young murdered an inmate by the name of Rufus McCain. That was something in the movie changed because they didn't want to film down there.
Coincidence? Perhaps. But it is remarkable that of all the places the investigators covered, the most significant activity occurred in the sewing area, the place of a specific and deadly incident, and one of which the investigators could not have known. Sudden death, spectral assassins, and a pervasive, ominous presence of inexplicable power. There is little question that Alcatraz holds a particular place in our collective imagination, consistently evoking feelings both stirring and dark.
Especially when it's a quiet night and you're by yourself, and I don't know, I can kind of sense them around me. Even right now, as I'm talking to you, I feel that we're being watched.
Escape from Alcatraz is now a simple boat ride. But for those who feel haunted by the experience, the island's power is impossible to leave behind.
Muted. Cisco mute. I would say more Tommy gun. Screw the cowbell. More Tommy gun. So anyhow, that's insane. And taking all that in, I don't think I'm nuts for saying I would not want to be in an investigation locked in there overnight. Because here's the deal. Why put yourself through that? Especially if you're an empath. Mud was in here. Hey, Mud, talking about stuff you'd been in before. You understand energy. You understand the manipulation of energy. You understand the power of it. And I'm sure a lot of people here do too. We all have our own vantage point on that, our own experience, our own, our collective consciousness on it. To walk into that kind of energy, that denseness, whether you believe in stone tape theory, a residual, any of that, if any of it's true, why would you want to subject yourself to it? And if you understand at the level I think that most of us do at this point, not patting ourselves on the back, but we do talk a lot about it. That's what this channel's about. The energy, the understanding, the trying to wrap your head around they can do what? You see where I'm coming from? That's what, thanks, Mud. So why would you put yourself through that if you're understanding that at any time, if you're at the right temperature, frequency, vibe, whatever you want to call it, all combined, they go home with you. And now you have that for the rest of your life, to the point of something that dense, that damaged. If it weren't damaged when they got there, those kind of conditions over decades, the cruelty of it all. I mean, to what point? I often wonder who's the person who wrote down 10 years for this crime or this thing. Again, not making excuses. I'm just talking about energy here. I'm talking about the amount. We're not talking about one person in a cell feeding energy into that rock, pun intended, over decades. Now multiply that by the hundreds. And they focus often on the stories of the large events that happened there, such as the occupation multiple times of large groups. So you had wars being fought there. You had civil war being shot, cannon being shot during the Civil War there from that island. Highly involved in multiple huge bursts of energy, lots of death. We know when someone dies, especially via Mark Nesbitt, a conversation we've had multiple times on this show with that dear man, about when somebody gets hit in the battlefield, say, breaks a bone, bursts through skin, it releases energy. It's a life force. All of this is going into that and reverberating in and around this rock, this big, huge rock, surrounded by water. The energy in there has to be so intense I think you'd have to be absolutely batshit crazy to want to volunteer for something like that. But then again, I'll walk on a battlefield in Gettysburg or Fredericksburg or Monmouth, wherever. But I won't go into Walmart. I hate a Walmart. Oh, just the anxiety and I can't. It just it just makes you a different kind of sick. The energy that comes off in there. So why would you volunteer? To me, it's as crazy as, unfortunately, the people that I know that went to try to summon the serial killer in a place where he buried his victims and then was surprised when the serial killer went home with them and almost killed one of them. And I mean almost killed, to the brink of, knocking on the door of death and going, I don't understand. But, we're this many years investigators and blah, 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 but you're not understanding the fundamental harm you're doing to yourself, quite possibly even people you're related to and friends with. Not just your household, but your bloodline. Can you imagine hooking into a deranged individual that has spent nothing but time, thought trapped in their own brain, their own thought for that amount of time, and being treated cruelly and taught nothing but pain and anguish and all of the lower vibrational vibes? Dude, can you imagine the absolute magnitude of it? And then say, sure, I'm going to go sit in this cell and I'm going to sit there and now I'm going to talk shit to them. This is all I'm saying. We might want to reconsider this. Your mileage might vary. I'm not telling you what to do, what not to do. I'm just saying why I'm not doing it. and please, 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 I would much rather you think about what I just said than to get that call at 2:00 in the morning and go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm here in such and such. My French poodle is floating around the kitchen and there's blood coming out of my toilet and, my shower won't shut off. And, my husband's foaming at the mouth or whatever the hell it is. And now I got to get on the phone and call my friends and we go through the thing. Can you go help these people? Because, well, do you think they did anything that might have called this, or, they might have picked up something? Did they just recently? Hold on a minute. Listen to this. They volunteered. But, and I make fun and I make light. And I the only reason I'm doing it is because people you gotta walk your journey, man. You got to make your choices. You got to pick your things. We just watched The Ravine. Man made choices. They weren't good. He had angels from both sides. Yes, angels from both sides. Think about what I just said. Whispering in his ear, pushing him, pushing on the cracks in his windshield. Dude killed half of his family and then himself. And then left the mess behind for friends and loved ones and other people to pick up the pieces and to move on. That's where, people forget that tragedy exists. It's the wake of the incident as well. And it lives on. And there are things who really dig that kind of suffering, if you know what I mean. And you're really deep down, dark, nasty criminals realize that. And if you don't think so, go back into history and look at all your really diabolical. Sorry, I'm messing with my phone because my phone died while we were watching that, so it took me so long to get back in here. And my phone is my way of keeping an eye on Rumble, so I'm not being rude. Well, I'm being rude, but I'm apologizing for it. But I have to continue to do it anyway. I'm sorry, because I'm trying to get my Rumble back up on my phone. It's the only way I can talk to you at Rumble. I've got my YouTube over here, and I've got my StreamYard there. So that being said, I really, really, really all the times I've talked about Alcatraz, all the times I've talked about things like Penhurst and everything else, I see people and ghost hunters and people do all the time. And do you, boo? Just saying. But please consider, if you're going to do something like that, for the love of all that's holy, please do a protection, do all the light you can, take in not just what you think you should have, but who are you talking to? What's going to work on them? Because what kind of mindset are you working with? I don't think people put enough emphasis on that. Who am I going to talk to? Do I have a clue who I'm going to talk to? What type of person? What era are they from? What language do they speak? You know, what kind of lingo? How am I going to have to dumb down or change or escalate my vocabulary to communicate with this human being, essence of a human being? Yeah, exactly, Davey. I think that's the era we're in. Wouldn't you love that? Wouldn't you just adore that with everything? If you could live back and say, I lived, you know how like you have your Ming, your dynasties and your times, like your medieval and your Victorian era and all that, you know, this is the FAFO era. Oh God. Oh honey, we could talk. I have to get over and rumble though. So anyway, back to the prison. That's what I'm talking about. Who are you talking to? You're talking to one of the guards that got killed there and went through hell and is just a scrambled person who on a good day made perfect sense and you could have a conversation with him? Or are you talking to somebody that spent, I don't know, 10 years in solitary confinement and wearing nothing but boxer shorts and the only humanity they ever saw was in their own mind? What kind of condition is that ghost in? What condition are you going to be in when it's all over? And are you going to know about it? Are you going to wind up doing things you didn't want to do? Heard a story the other day. I'll say this real quick and then we're going. And please, if you're going to watch the Poltergeist 2 with us, get over there in a little more time. Follow. If Ahmad could drop my link to the Rumble, go over there and watch it with us. We'll have a ball. It's a fantastic movie. It absolutely has to be shown after Poltergeist that we saw on Thursday. And if you hadn't seen that, well, then maybe tomorrow you'll get to watch them both. Maybe you can pick them up there. But they're free, and they'll be there tomorrow. And I thank Rumble again for allowing us to do such a thing, because it's like going to the drive-in in your PJs, and you can eat, drink, and be merry. You can stand on your head if you want. You can sit in a bed full of dogs and cats or your significant other and enjoy it with your family or whatever. I think it's awesome. And I'm certainly amazed at, in my lifetime, I've come from 8 tracks to be able to do something like this. It's really been quite the timeline to be alive. I think it's been really cool. So, you won't go to Walmart either? No, what, Mud, I'm serious. Does it not drain you? Does it not drain you? I mean, so many people have been picking up like residual bullshit, really more than usual even lately. And it's just, you have to just fight it all the time, But dude, can you imagine walking into a prison? Hospitals, same. Children's wards, stop it. You have to put so much on you, those poor babies. Shelters, animal shelters. I can't stop. I can't, It takes so much energy to put up that wall just to be able to walk through that and just go somewhere else. Just go shadow, pull your shadow person out and just go, and handle it. But it's so hard. You can't keep that up for long. I wonder how people like Night Shift Hospital deal. They must just have such a blanked out of, life. Soldiers and more combat soldiers, same deal. Same conversation in any kind of stressful thing like that. But anyhow, this was really something. I don't know if anybody had ever told you that, but there were people killed in their cells, in their locked cells. They like to blow it off, like Froze said earlier. We don't want the public panicked. We don't want the people can't handle the truth. National security issues. Hoover, we don't want the the FBI seen in a bad light, you know, that we can't let that out. We can't let the facts out. The people can't handle understanding the truth. And those who ask questions, what we're going to do in 1967, when Mike Lane came out with his book and had a lot of facts in it, a certain group put out, hey, we're going to send out a memo, a telegraph that says anybody who asks questions about the JFK killing, we want the phrase to be used, conspiracy theorist. And we want it used over and over and over and over again. It's called linguistic programming. Look it up. And, you know, sometimes them tinfoil hats turn into crowns, don't they? So anyhow, don't make me, prove me wrong. Don't make me right. I don't want to be right about this, that people that are going into these places are bringing stuff home. But I know it's a fact. And I also know that if you get the wrong thing, it's got the right amount of power and the right knowledge, such as the St. Valentine's Day victim that followed Al to his cell. Are we giving ghosts, we're taking it for granted that they can't do this. We're listening to those old wives' tales that says, oh, they can't hurt you, honey. They're dead. They can't. Ghosts can only make you hurt yourself by being scared and make you jumpy. Honey, ghosts suck life right out of you if you let it. So pay attention. One way or another. Or make you so weak, but breaks down your immune and your energy like this too. But again, just as direct. So think about that, right? I think there's a responsibility to it. I don't think it's funny or cool. I worry about these people that sit in these basements with these masks on and ask questions. And, even if they're kind, I think that's, if you're going to do it, you better stay in a good vibe. But I think we need to take very seriously protection going in way before, like I put in cabin 22. If you remember, if you've heard the story, when the natives came up the mountain, they had been fasting. They had been in preparation for days before they went up against what they went up against. They knew it was going to be draining. They knew they had to be sharp. And I worry about these people because I've seen it. I've seen it, man. And if it's one thing I leave behind too, is that understanding of ghosts. It's like, you got to take them one at a time. And I think that's what we got to do with people too. And I think some really nosy people that with a lot of power and a lot of really crappy ideas for a very long time and very little regard for their fellow human being have been doing things to separate us and to get us to forget those things. They had us check little boxes that gave labels to us. Like, we just filled out paperwork yesterday. My son, it's like, am I this? Am I this? Am I this? And I'm just, why? I can remember filling that stuff out when I was a teenager, when it started popping up. And I'm like, I don't know. Gosh, I'm one of these. I'm a little of that. I'm some of those, and then you couldn't even have Native American on there. And then it got to the point where if you click the box that said Native American, you better have some cards to prove it, boy, because there's 3 things in this world that have to prove who they are by blood: racehorses, dogs, and Native Americans. And then you got the people who wanted to do that for their reasons. And then you got people who said, I know who I am. I don't need a card. And there's fights there. If we remembered how much we are alike and go back to that base, I think we would be kinder to each other. I don't think we would allow places where we took people and just, look, if you're an absolute animal, I'm all for this, what's going on over there in El Salvador and all that. That guy took a place and they went from the highest murder capital to the least. And they're definitely under us over the past couple of years. And if you wonder what this has to do with Alcatraz, it has to do with Alcatraz because we tried it. We're not learning from history. Look what we're doing. And because our interests are wide and we're trying to understand this wonderful paranormal, metaphysical, supernatural world, we're going into places that people were digging for a year to get out of. And sitting there and talking to people that we don't know and no idea what shape they're in, and bringing it home to our kids or a neighbor or a grandma or our bloodline because we said something and it just ticked them off enough, reminded them a little bit of this and clicked something in their whatever consciousness they're dealing with at the time. And now you're stuck with them, and your grandkids are stuck with them, and their kids are stuck with them. Because I have been in multiple circles of multiple good-hearted people from all different walks of life, cultures, and understanding and faiths, coming together to help one person who was still trying to get a bloodline curse off of them because somebody back in the day did some stupid shit. And I see people who say they understand now making the same mistakes. That's why I wanted you to see Odd Thomas. That's why I wanted you to see this tonight. We're done. I'm sorry I had to keep you so late. I'll shut up. That's why I showed you Odd Thomas, because from Dean Koontz's perspective, this young man saw things, and he knew when he saw certain things that bad stuff was going to happen, and he was trying to make it stop. I see those things, and I try to warn you guys. I can feel those things, and so can you. And now I see some backing off, but I still see lies coming in. So be aware. Just take one step at a time. We got this. We were born for this. This is our time. We keep the lights on, and we learn from other people's mistakes. Hopefully, we've already learned enough from our own. I was thinking of something today about, people ask me, what's this gatekeeper thing? And I'm like, well, we're trying to change the meaning of a word. We're trying to put a little joy back into it, because it's just my chat, it's what we call each other. Because in our minds, we see it as we're standing at this gate that everybody wants answers. What's on the other side? UFOs, all this different stuff. Ultimately, it's the other side. And it's the afterlife and what happens next kind of thing. But we're still on that journey. How far through the gate do we need to go to get those answers? Don't know. But along the way, you're going to meet people that have learned from their journey and would like to pass the information on to you. And that's all I'm doing. Because I think it's a bad idea to go sitting in a place like this and talk to people you don't know, or a battlefield or anything else. And, ask them, what's it feel like to be shot, or whatever, and stir it up, or serial killers or any of that. We got to get back to putting the light forward first, and common sense, and our knowledge, and leave a little something for people that are going to come in this subject later and learn a little something from, like we did when we reached it, to Hans Holzler and so many other people, Dr. Moody, and just so many wonderful, wonderful minds and hearts and souls, through time, absolutely through time. So very interesting little tidbit. If you want to stay with me for 10 more minutes, I want to finish tonight up with this little bit here, because this is a man, and then we're going to go watch Poltergeist 2 over on Rumble. So I wanted to give you a little extra time to get over there and get on Rumble. It is free. Thank you, Ted, for dropping the links. Thank you, Kat. Thanks to all my mods. And give them a hand. Throw them some bacon. Throw the mods some bacon, guys. Give them some love. Because, like I said, it's free, and you get to watch this, different things. All the movies that are available, and the things that are available, and the shows that are available. We're going to try to get a comedy night. I'd like to do that, lift people's spirits, and try to do that for somebody every day if you can. Try to lift their spirits, because it obviously lingers. It obviously makes a difference. We are accountable. And I really think, like Daniel Brinkley said, I think it was the third time he came back from the other side after getting shocked by lightning, killed by lightning, near death, near miss. He came back and he was hugging everybody. And this guy asked him, He said, boy, you're a hugger, aren't you? This is an ex-Marine. This is a hardcore dude. Comes back now, spends all his time helping Veterans Hospice. It's an amazing man and trying to give us the truth. You know, things that are going on and things that are going on over there that he found out on the other side. And the guy says, you know, you're a real hugger. And he says, hey, just so you know, I'm not hugging you. I'm hugging me. Because when we get over there, you know, we experience everything we give and everything we take in. So I want as many hugs as I can get. Think about that. Carry that with you when you go into some of these places and you're dealing with somebody, even the living that are in whatever dwelling you're trying to deal with. But understand that you don't know who you're talking to. You're going to have to use all your filters, everything that you came here with, and everything you've been working on, and exercising. And I mean exercising as in using a lot, not that kind of exercising. But Peter James is one of the best. And when he walked into Alcatraz, we have a little 10-minute short here of he had no knowledge other than he had heard the name. He knew what it was used for. And that's about it. So here's a little Peter James. If I can find it. Let's get it right. Warning, warning, warning. Please put up your trays and adjust your seats. Tomorrow night with Steve Stockton, if he's feeling better, and I hope he is, and if I haven't, send love to Holden and Nick and Steve. I hope you're feeling better tonight, my loves. If he can be here tomorrow night with us, we are going to finish up on the escape at Alcatraz and what I think happened there. And I found some really interesting information, and I think it's really interesting, and probably a couple more ghosts and some other Alcatraz things too. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. All right. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? That's not it. Here it is. Here we go. You'll recognize this. You know you've seen it here before.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White.
But it's so
We begin a
good.
new series of investigations tonight with a trip to Alcatraz. Since the world's most infamous prison was opened to the public in 1973, some visitors claim to have felt the ghostly presence of long-dead inmates. Well, Park Service officials won't comment. So, along with the Sightings investigative team, I went to Alcatraz. There's a strange pull you feel viewing this imposing outpost from shore. It was once the toughest prison in America, home to Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and the Bird Man of Alcatraz. It started in the 1850s as a military fortress defending San Francisco Bay.
We're in the guardhouse, built in 1857. It was intended to be used as a defensive point. There was a gun that would have been mounted here, but it never got used. Instead, this was turned into the first cell block on Alcatraz in 1863.
Insubordinate soldiers were locked away in tiny cells, measuring only 3 by 6 feet. They were beaten, chained to the walls, and forced to endure hard labor on the rock.
Alcatraz boomed, and by 1909, the cell house that dominates the top of the island had been built for the incarceration of military prisoners.
Alcatraz remained a barbaric military prison until the 1930s, when social upheaval reached a peak and mobsters ruled the big city streets. The Justice Department requested that the military surrender the island, and Alcatraz was transformed into a maximum security prison, the last stop for America's most hardened criminals.
A little nutter himself.
The monsters of society were stored here
What a
until
creep.
1963, when the prison closed.
No honor.
Alcatraz
Hoover.
was opened
None.
to the public in 1973 and attracts 4,000 tourists today. There are reports that Alcatraz is haunted. Could the pain and suffering endured by prisoners at Alcatraz still exist today in the form of ghosts?
When you walk in, it's really dark and it's very cold in there, and I got the chills and I had to leave. I didn't like it at all.
Normally, I don't believe in ghosts, but in a place like that where there have been so many violent deaths and the kind of people that were there, you know, it's quite possible.
I think it's a natural idea that when you come onto the island, you're going to be experiencing something a little special, you know, a little extra. Sounds of a cell door closing, somebody appearing and then disappearing. Those type of things would really send chills up your spine.
Ray Polo, a former Park Service ranger on the island, claims many ghostly encounters have occurred. But for the past 19 years, the Park Service has refused to talk about reports that Alcatraz is haunted.
Official policy about ghosts on Alcatraz is we would say that, in effect, well, maybe things had happened, maybe they didn't. It's just something that it wasn't officially sanctioned.
Are there ghosts on Alcatraz? We asked nationally renowned psychic investigator Peter James to spend a night on the rock. I walked with Peter as he tried to communicate with what he calls entities inside Alcatraz. As we walked through the cell blocks, Peter began to hear what he felt were the voices of tortured spirits.
Alcatraz was a place that drove men mad. Military prison.
There's pain, and I'm in pain, and there's blood here.
They couldn't break out of the prison.
Like a psychic bloodhound, Peter was drawn to out-of-the-way places around the island.
I know little or nothing about Alcatraz other than what I learned here during the past 2 days that I've been here. And my feelings are strongly that there is an energy here unlike any other that I've ever experienced.
Peter claimed to have little knowledge of the history of Alcatraz. He said he let the spirits guide him, and they led him here to an area known as the Citadel.
This particular one, I feel there was a loss of life here. And this man was a sergeant. And this is an American life that was lost in this particular cell. And I feel badly. I feel beaten. I don't feel that I lost life from gunfire. I lost life because of neglect. I was neglected. I am responding to, there's a definite sense here that I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. There could not be any crime in the world worth the punishment that I feel this entity endured.
Peter had correctly identified the dank dungeon where military prisoners were kept. The specific ghost images he felt were later substantiated by our experts.
I'm feeling an American here. I'm feeling an American serviceman right here.
Men were kept chained down there, sometimes chained through iron rings to the floor, other times, as we understand, chained with iron rings in the ceiling.
Something is like going through my stomach. It feels like something metal, and my legs are in chains as well. I'm feeling that if I stay here much longer, that I'll die.
Peter's feelings of death and torment followed us through the night.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
We replayed Peter's observations for our experts, like ex-guard Al Bloomquist. And after each of Peter's encounters, our experts confirmed the accuracy of his psychic visions.
Forced to comply with these orders that I'm being given, and I feel like I'm being trapped here in this particular area.
We were told there's trouble on the rock.
On May the 2nd, 1946, 6 inmates with other lesser accomplices decided to blast their way out of the prison.
I feel like I'm being thrown into this cell, and I'm being thrown into that cell.
During that time, they gathered up 9 officers, put them inside of cells to be used as hostages.
Who are the people in here? 4 or 5? Are they prisoners? No, I am a person of authority. I feel like I should be on the other side of this of the bars, but I'm here against my will. I am here I am placed here by force, and at the point of the gun.
Who's holding it? Who's shooting?
I feel that Joseph is involved here.
Joseph Kretzer, he was one of the toughest of the bunch. He was really a mean dog.
What does Joseph have to do with this? Joseph is keeping me captive here. Joseph is placing me here against my will.
Where's Joseph? So Kretzer took the .45 automatic and started shooting these officers, innocent officers inside the cell.
I'm sensing that Bill or William, lost his life here.
Only one.
Only one.
4 or 5 here. One,
There are
one
4
there.
here, but others are wounded. But I only feel one loss of life in this particular place.
Whose voice are you hearing?
I'm hearing William. There's a Bill or William.
William Miller later died in the hospital in San Francisco. Other officers were very seriously wounded.
The name starts with a C.
Cecil Corwin had his lower jaw torn away.
It's a wonder they weren't all killed in the spot.
Alarm sounded. Military reinforcements arrived. The inmates
Terrible.
fled to a utility corridor in C block.
Think about it.
46 years later,
Sheer
Peter James
fear,
led our cameras to the
panic,
same, now dark, corridor. Peter, you've sensed a lot
crescendo,
in
pain.
there. Why don't you we have an infrared lens on the camera. Why don't you go in there with the camera and see what you think you're on?
I would like that. I would like that. Joseph, I'm coming through. Marty, Mark. Give me a better verification of a name. Marvin, is that Marvin?
Marvin Hubbard died in the utility corridor of C block.
Oh, there's I am responding to a sensation here, and I feel like I'm losing consciousness. And what Joseph is telling me is that he's been shot.
Joseph Dutch Kretzer died in the utility corridor of C block.
Oh, it's cold. It's freezing back here. There's a cold spot here. Oh, yes. Hello? There is a third soul here with the letter B.
Bernard Paul Coy died in the utility corridor of C block.
So they're moaning. The pain is so intense. They're like little boys back here. They're moaning, almost asking for the guidance of their parents right now. There are at least 100 ghosts here, 100 entities that walk these corridors, looking for a way out, looking for that life force that they seem to have lost somewhere, tragically.
I can't really say that I'm a believer myself, but like many people, I guess there are some things that just simply are unexplained.
After my night on Alcatraz, it was hard to ignore the images and voices evoked by Peter James, but I still have questions about what we experienced together. Joining me now from Los Angeles is psychic Peter James. Peter, good of you to join us.
Thank you, Jim. Nice to have you here.
We were together there
God
that
bless you,
evening,
Peter.
and people who see the tape might wonder, is this guy for real? I don't believe it. It looks like he was making it up. He probably memorized a book. He talked to the guards. He went there half a dozen times. How do you answer that?
I had no prior knowledge other than what the general public knows about Alcatraz.
We were there together. I tried to be as open as I could through those hours. And as I told you at the time, I didn't hear the voices. I didn't see anything. I didn't sense what you sensed. Does that say something about me or about you, the differences between us, or does it say something about the entities? They don't choose to speak to you.
It says something about all of us, Tim, in that we all spend too much time in trying to disprove that there is another side rather than to simply bridge
Embrace
those
it.
gaps of ignorance, as I put it. And yes, some of us are more acutely sensitive, as I am.
Can
Brilliant.
you turn it on and off, Peter, or are you seeing and hearing things all the time?
I see things all the time. I don't know that you can, but I am able to turn it off and on, yes.
Peter James, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant.
And we will be back with more sightings in just a moment.
I love Peter James. I can't say it enough. We've lost him. Oh no. Did I hit the wrong button? Am I good? We're good. We're 5 by 5. Okay, great. So let's finish up. Love Peter James. If you can see any old stuff from him, sightings, unsolved mysteries, I believe. God, there's not a lot on video. We've lost so much. And so much knowledge. That's why I bring back some of the old stuff, because gosh, the way they spoke then about these things, and you know, the bantering that they would take, and the hell I've seen people drag, these wonderful, talented people that could have kept their mouths shut, decided not to help humanity, decided not to put their head, you know, their lives out there and take a chance and being bashed, as it always happens, whether you're trying to help some victim that keeps coming to you, and they're telling you where the body is. You go to the cops and tell them, hey, I know where a body's, at. You're in there getting interrogated, probably thrown in jail. I've known multiple mediums that have spent days being interrogated trying to help the dead. We need to stop lashing out, like you said, just open up. And we spend so much time trying to disprove it. We don't open up and just embrace it, and we're missing so much. And again, I go back to, people talk gatekeepers, and what do you mean in the journey? What is all that? Okay. I see it sometimes like Alice in Wonderland. We're walking through, we're all that soul walking through and seeing all these things and having these experiences and going through hard times and making it through and learning from it and gaining a little wisdom and a few scars to go with it, because man, the best wisdom come with the most scars, build the most calluses, and you make it through all that. That's why they say in so many tribal traditions, elders are held up and revered, because if they made it that far, they must know something, and I think somehow they've chemically made people start losing that knowledge a lot earlier, just so we won't get it. So I say you better go in and get it both handfuls. Gain that wisdom everywhere you can. If you are Alice in Wonderland walking through, who are you talking to? Cheshire Cat? And who are you meeting along the way? And gaining that wisdom. And are you meeting good people that walk you a little bit through? Maybe they understand a little bit about this path in your life and they're trying to help you through. Some of those are alive. Regular people we meet every day that come into our lives and just either click something off on us so we learn a little bit, or to set us off so we can learn patience or learn something else, or learn to hold our tongue when we don't need, those moments where does this need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? How we treat other people and what we learn from it. And then it's our responsibility to pass that knowledge along, right? So those to me are gatekeepers. Those are the people you meet along the way. And we here are light workers. And we've decided that in our own way, with our own talents, we're going to keep that light on in the world. We're going to get each other through hard times. Henry, if you're still there, baby, I'm here for you. I had no idea. And I love you so much. So I want everybody in here to just think of the chat and think of our loved ones and think of people that are going through hard times right now. God bless them. Look, it's going to be bumpy, but it's going to be worth it. Nothing worth it comes easy. And that works in the paranormal, metaphysical, the supernatural, and it sure as hell stands for any kind of supernatural warfare. We're all in it, but I can see the light and it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. We're going to make this better. We're going to help each other. We're going to be better to each other, so we don't wind up ghosts screwing around in some stanky, nasty, black mold-ridden damn basement, hiding behind a water heater for some jerk like me to come through and try to communicate with and get us over to the freaking light. Or whatever you want to call it. Where the love is. Where source is. Where we meet each other again. And I hope we meet each other again in a few minutes over in the Rumble channel, and here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. with hopefully Steve Stockton on the mend. But right now, a moment for anybody in this chat who is suffering, any of our family members, our loved ones, our tribe, our friends that are suffering. If you're suffering, I want you to take a moment and put that light out there. So we're going to do our circle. If you want to participate, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine all this good energy of this chat just standing in a circle. You can picture it as each person as a beautiful candle just hovering there and making a beautiful circle of light. And I want everybody to just lean to the right and imagine you're giving a little of your light to the person next to you, a little of that flame. And a little of the flame is going to the next person till it goes all around the circle. And you feel that warmth and light just moving in a circle. like a ring of fire. But what it is healing light, and it's love, and it's a good vibration that goes out to anybody who's listening, who needs it. Claim it. Make sure you pass it on. We love you all. Thank you. Healing light out there. People are needing it. I'm laughing my ass off. I'm loving this. I'm feeling good. We're going to be okay. And if you look back and know the energy is not destroyed, it just continues on. You have to think about what kind of energy do you want to be while you're alive and after we've passed. I hope you'll see here over in Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. It's a good story. It goes a little further into the saga of what was haunting that house, what wanted Carol Ann, what had the power to hold those people there. What we saw in the first movie, it was created a portal. It was attracted to her light, her youth, her energy. Of course, she had some type of ability that woke something up on that property. And all the dead people, we heard the famous line, you moved the headstones, you left the bodies, you just moved the headstones. The house even got sucked into the ground. Also, I want you to remember that this was playing in theaters while in a development in America, right next to the Black Hope Cemetery. It's a famous story. The same thing was going on in that development all around that cul-de-sac. People were dying. People were getting cancer. They were getting better. They were going to the hospital. They get bad, come back, happened again. Just the whole thing. Snakes, all kinds of mess. Goo running down the walls. All of this was going on at the same time. And I tell you that because around the movie Poltergeist, there was a rumor that got started and people ran with it that Spielberg based that movie on the Black Hope Cemetery. Wrong. People in Black Hope Cemetery were actually hearing about Poltergeist and not wrapping their mind around, oh my God, this is happening to us, and they're making a movie about it. You see? The kicker is you have to understand that Steven Spielberg based that movie on 3 other developments that were having the same problem. So my friends, we have been living in an epidemic of haunting. Standing on, building on graveyards, disrespecting, spiritual places, disrespecting each other, having wars, putting blood in the ground, putting energy out into the universe, and then mucking around with it. I think now is the time where we realize the power that we have and the power and love that's within us, and see if we can go the opposite direction and just start chilling for a while. Let's give peace a chance. Let's straighten our crap out, pull up our bootstraps, get ourselves together, and live a little, and learn how to treat the dead a little better. Hope I see you on the other side. See you over on the Rumble. And hope to see you here tomorrow night. I hope you all are doing well. And take a little something from what Peter James said. And these people that, whether it was at the St. Valentine's Massacre and how the living pushes themselves and gets to that crossroad where they make that hard left, those yeses and nos, those little choices, what got them there? Maybe instead of taking people and trying to take something that their culture and our culture and whatever their surroundings were and the people and how they treated them created, maybe instead of trying to break broken people, we need to stop breaking them to begin with. Start treating our kids better. Start loving each other. Stop putting labels and separating, and let's just be human beings. Be good humans out there. I love you all. See you over on the other side. I'm going to play a little closer for the YouTube channel, and we'll be right back at the end of this with Poltergeist 2. Thank you guys for being here with me and letting me talk. I appreciate it. It's healing for all of us, I think, in a lot of ways. Except for some of you that come in the chat afterwards and try to tell me stuff, and you don't know me, you don't know us, and I'm sorry, and it upsets you so much that I have long intros, and I have this, or I do that, or I spoke, but just be offended and move on. At this point in time, I'll see you on the other side, and I'll try to help you there. Good night, everybody. Here we go. And Ted, I hope I see you there. I know it's late, honey. If you can't be there, it's okay. Don't feel obligated, okay? Good night, everybody.